Greetings. Thank you for joining me on my inward journey, and hopefully on yours as well. I'm JP.WATKINS, and I've got a question. If this was your last week to live, what would you do differently? Would you do anything different? Who would you be spending that time with? Would you be proud of what you accomplished so far? Depending on your answer, ask yourself, what would you do differently again? Be honest, brutally honest. Think about the legacy. What have you left behind? What would you say to the people that meant the most to you? I'm thinking about when I watched the documentary about Tupac, and a lot of the people were saying he was a workhorse, and he's just like, man, I got to get this done. Hold on, hey, it ain't no time to be playing. I got to record this. Because he had a sense of urgency, and he wanted to get this stuff recorded, and so on and so forth. And even though he's been gone now for quite some time, 95, 96, somewhere in there, he's been gone, and people still talk about Tupac. But he left a legacy. Whatever you think about that legacy, he left many words and videotapes and different things that people can glean from. Certain things they can model from. Other things are example of what not to do. But think about the body of work he left behind, even as a young man in his early 20s. Think of us that's in our 30s, 40s, 50s. What have we left? What have we done? What body of work have we left behind? Who knows about our story? Who can learn from our story? If you only had 1 week left, what would you want to tell people? What would you want them to know about you? For instance, my best friend, Tim Talley, we was just talking. The day before he passed, we was talking, joking. Wasn't like he was sick, laying on, his deathbed or nothing like that. He was just animated as ever. Just as animated as I am now. Even more so. Anybody that know Tim know that he had an extraordinary sense of humor. And he played boom boom, and we just took it for granted that he'd be here. Come October 25th of next month, it'll be 6 years since he's been deceased. And I always think about how I took it for granted that he'd be here another 20, 30, 40 years. And I'm asking you right now, how many of us are taking it for granted that next year's going to come, next month's going to come, next week's going to come, tomorrow it's going to come. And I'm sure it may come, but how many of us act as if we are going to come with it? How many of us act as if we got a guaranteed 50-year card, guaranteed 30-year card, 8-year card? So we sit around and we procrastinate, and we sit around and we don't have that sense of urgency that Tupac had. We don't have that sense of urgency to lead a life of substance, to lead a life of fulfillment, a meaningful life. So if people ask, well, what about you? What about you, JP.WATKINS? What did you want? What message would you want to leave? What legacy would you want to leave? I always use this term, legacy of decency. That doesn't mean I was perfect. If anything, I was highly imperfect. I led a very indecent life for a large part of my life. When I ran the streets, sold dope, operated in violence, operated in active ignorance, where I didn't know what I didn't know and I didn't care. I just wanted to lead a life of fun, a life of chasing and just, living for the moment. Not even a weekend, living for the moment. Tyranny of the moment. Only thing mattered was right now. I'm a money junkie. Don't care about life and limb. Don't care about my freedom. And in truth, the way I was acting, I couldn't, at that point in time in my life, I couldn't say I was really caring about my kids. We like to say that we care about things, but is your actions saying that you care? What are your actions right now doing to say if you're gone this time next week, what have you done? What have you left for your kids? What have you left for your loved ones? Just something to think about. And unfortunately, sometimes we got to look at that terminal point in our lives to make us say, man, that's deep. I never thought about it. So now I hope that I've left some more redeeming things. You know, for those of you that know me under my pen name, Heath Anthony, I left a body of work, you know, called the Do Dirt Doctrine. A lot of cautionary tales, you know, the OPE, other people's example, where you can learn from other people's examples. And unfortunately, so many of us, we have to learn. Everybody from Missouri, or they act like they're from Missouri. So you got to show them. So for so many of us, we got to get that smack on the head with that concrete. I was one of them. But hopefully there's a body of us that can learn from other people's examples, can learn from other people's experiences. And that's what I wrote the Do Dirt Doctrine. Of course, it's going to get its critics about the level of violence and vulgarity, but it was for a small population, and hopefully it's changed more lives for the better than not. Other thing that I would like people to remember me by is that my goal in life, although it took me a long time to find in life, I feel like my purpose in life is to empower people, to make people feel empowered, not just helping the vulnerable populations, the elderly, the homeless, the disabled, but also people like yourself that are taking the time to watch this, to empower people. That's one of my biggest callings in life, because I know how it feels to feel powerless. And I know how powerless people often respond, and that's aggressively, violently. Because when you're pecking for power, you want any kind of power, any kind of expression of power that you can have. So I'm hoping that I've left a legacy of empowerment, helping people to help themselves. If I had to sum it up, of course it's much more than that. But those are the key things that I help empower people, I help people feel empowered, and 2, that I help people to help themselves. And 3, the road to redemption. That it's not about making mistakes. It's not about dropping a ball. It's about picking that ball up. It's about getting on the road to redemption. It's about making retribution where and when you can. It's about being better and not being bitter. And then, of course, one of my last pieces that I hope that I drilled in about persistence, about tenacity, about being tenacious, about having that bold spirit to go for what you want in life. Because so many of us, we are not playing to win, and we are contently miserable. I hope that I have sparked and ignited that fire inside of you, that you say, man, I want to be a writer, so I'm going to write. I want to be a singer, so I'm going to sing. I want to be a politician, so I'm getting into the politics. Whatever it is that you believe that you can be, I hope that you have the courage to honor your inner greatness. That's the legacy that I seek to leave behind. And I truly believe that I've touched lives already for the better. And I apologize for those lives that I've touched for the worse when I was young and ignorant, and when I was operating in that low register of space. But we live, and hopefully if we live long enough, we learn. And I've learned that sometimes you got to look at things differently. And when you look at things differently, you can operate from a different perspective. And you can get in the driver's seat of your life and take control of your life. If you feel like forever a victim, that's the way you're going to operate in life. That's what you're going to get out of life. You're going to live up to your expectation of never achieving anything, of never being successful, of never having a loving support group, never having a significant other. But all too often, for a long time, I didn't think that I deserved to be successful. I didn't think that I deserved to lead a prosperous life. I didn't think that I deserved to have a significant other because I had bought into the other opinions of others. I had heard people call me dumb MF, stupid MF, told me that, I was a dead end, you know what, and told me that I was a thug, told me that I was going to be nothing more than an inmate, nothing more, at best, an inmate or dead in an early grave. I bought into that lie because I let other people's opinion of me define my expectations. I let it create my limitations, and that was my fault. But now I know better, and because I know better, I do better. Does that mean everything is perfect in my life? Absolutely not. Does that mean that there's forces out there that's greater than myself? Absolutely. To act like racism isn't a reality, that's a falsity. To act like discrimination doesn't exist, that's a falsity too. To act like it's all kind of injustice parading around, that there are injustices not parading around our society, that would be problematic. But to buy into the sense of victimhood, there's nothing I can do, or there's nothing I could do but vote for somebody else to do it for me, or get on somebody else's bandwagon to advocate for me having the best life and making the most of myself. I don't buy into that. Yes, sometimes we need to sign petitions. Sometimes we need to vote for certain people for certain causes. But I think most of the responsibility falls in our lap to shape the life that we want to have. We got to be accountable. We got to invest so that we can experience growth. If you don't spend no time being accountable, if you don't say, man, yeah, I could have did a better job at looking for jobs. I could have did a better job when I was at that job. I could have learned more. I could have took the opportunities. I could have went to the different seminars, I could have watched the different webinars. I could have asked for different training. I could have skilled up and scaled up, but I chose not to. I chose to do just enough so they wouldn't fire me. So when we be accountable, we say, man, I got to be accountable. I can do something about my weight. Yeah, we live in a so-called food desert. There's not a lot of healthy options, but it's alternative things out there. You got intermittent fasting. You got water fasting. You got things that if you're willing to think unconventionally, you can think outside the box and get a hold of your weight, get a better sense of being healthier, reverse your diabetes. You have to ask yourself, have you really been accountable? Then you got to ask yourself, have you invested in yourself? Have you spent time studying? Have you spent time reading? Have you spent time watching examples of other people like myself? And you see I'm still a pretty chunky guy here, even though I've come down a few sizes, and I'm still going to come down. But guess what? I watched examples like Butter Bob Briggs. I watched examples like Possible Pat. Both of those are guys on YouTube. Check them out. I watched examples like Roberto Blake, a YouTuber that have some success. I watched YouTubers like Steve Dotto, who talks about information technology. These different things, I've gleaned bits and pieces, and I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly evolving. And my goal is to never stop the learning process. It's to always get just a bit better every day. So a lot of times we want this one big bang change. No. Increment. I once read, everything's a cinch if you do it inch by inch. So day by day, you can just get a little bit better. Read just a little bit more. Do just a little bit more. Hold yourself a little bit more accountable. Invest in yourself. Whether that be webinar, watching informational stuff on YouTube, reading informational stuff, Googling it, going to your local library, going to seminars, going to conferences, whatever means, getting training, reaching out to your supervisor, reaching out to your pastor, whoever, whatever your field of endeavor is. Reach out and invest in you and make the most of yourself. Be the absolute best that you can be because you deserve it, because you demand it. And in the words of C.T. Fletcher, because I said so. I'm going to do great because I said so. I'm not going to let no one outwill me, outdetermine me, outdo me. And I want you to put that same sense of fire, that same spirit, that same sense of enthusiasm into your soul, into your head, into your heart, and say, you know what? He doing it. I can do it. Brother Bob Briggs did it. I can do it. Possible Pat did it. I can do it. Les Brown did it. I can do it. JP.WATKINS did it. So can you. So act like this week is your last week and think about, what do you want people to take away from your life? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Are you proud of what you've done? Are you proud of what you've left behind? If you're not, what are you going to do about it? In the meantime, persist, believe, and achieve. And you will achieve once you start to believe. That's my time.